Beautiful day for some basic maintenance. There we go.
Let's leave everything and go traveling. See what tomorrow brings. It's only a choice away. Let's back up and leave today. Let's see what tomorrow brings.
I've been driving on this little road out of, what town were we in? I don't even know.
Oh, don't ask me to say it.
All the towns,
I mean, that's
all the
not
towns
it.
here
Like,
have been so hard to pronounce that
Yeah.
we'd have to ask somebody.
Yeah, it's interesting. So it's like the towns look very Spanish in origin, but the names of the towns seem to be,
Or
native. Yeah. So in this part of the country, I'm not sure which we're looking at, whether it's Inca, Aztec. Somebody's probably laughing if I got those wrong.
I don't know.
But it's interesting. This is totally different than anywhere north of here, Mexico, we've been in. The towns are beautiful. This road we've been on, this is miles now, and I don't know. We've got another 15 or 20
Yeah, I'm
miles to go.
so curious how far it will go.
Every single bit of the road is hand-laid rock, but it's not with cement. It's laid in the dirt, and there's almost no repairs. So it's all old rock, hand-placed. And then if you look, you can see there's maybe every 100 yards, there's a little tiny bit of asphalt somebody's put in. Maybe a rock blew out or something like that. And we see commercial trucks on this road. So we're driving along on a bumpy, handmade road that's lasted a long time. I don't know how long, but
It's really
amazing.
cool. These towns were so happy, quiet, and clean, with so many cheerfully colored houses. The people's pride in their town was clear. I loved just driving the streets, taking it all in, exchanging waves and greetings as we went. After lazily exploring in these pueblitos, we ended up finding a great camp spot off the cobbled road in a nature preserve and decided to post up there and give Goose some love.
So we started out doing parking brake in the rear, parking brake adjustment. And then as I was adjusting those, we got that done. I noticed there was some wetness near the breathers for the auxiliary fuel tank. So we kind of changed directions, pulled off all those little hoses, and had some new sections. One of them had a little cut in it. I think it was from when I actually installed it. I was trying to get it on there and I may have put a little cut in it. Or the hose clamp may not have been tight enough, whatever. We redid all that, put that all back together. Then we took these 10 liter or 2 gallon or 2.5 gallon to us, but 10 liter here, water things we've been buying whenever we see them, if we need some drinking water. Cut them in half because they're probably that big around, and then put a trash bag in them, and we drain the transfer case and the engine oil, put a new filter on. And the reason I did the transfer case is that it was just humming and making some noise, and these 80 series, it seems like that's fairly common, but I went to a little heavier weight hoping that'll quiet it down, or if it is having issues, maybe it'll take care of it. So we did new transfer case fluid, and then I went ahead and changed the oil. It was our first oil change since we left the States, and we did about 6,000 miles, but it's all full synthetic Mobil 1, so that's not really that long. Put a new filter on. Then we pulled the air filter out, cleaned the air filter off. There's a thing called the tuna can. If you have an 80, you know what I'm talking about. And it catches all the dust and particulates that come out of that cyclonic filter. Because we have the Donaldson top spin, not much gets in there. What I've found is almost every time I check it, it's bugs. So probably when the truck's not running, some bugs try and get down in there in the intake, thinking it's a great spot to make a home. And when the truck turns on, the sort of cyclonic OEM filter throws them into the tuna can. So it dumped the tuna can, blew all the dust off the air filter, but it was pretty clean. We keep putting in sort of crappy ones from, you know, a generic Mexican suspension shop, and they just can't take the abuse. We ruin them in a matter of days. So this is the third set of bushings in a week and a half. So we'll see if we can get some good ones sent down from the States for these shocks, because of course the ones I'm putting on aren't the right size. That's part of why they're going so fast, but partly they just suck. It's really bad rubber. So the Napa ones were by far the best, but we haven't found a Napa in a while, so we'll see what we can find. Guadalajara is not too far away, and that's a huge city, so I'm gonna try there. But what I've been doing now is stacking two shock bushings on top of each other, because it's on the post side of things. And so stack two on top of each other, I can barely get the washer and the nut on, and then can crank it down a little bit, and it seems to last a little bit longer. So it's just been a day of listening to AC/DC and doing maintenance and drinking a lot of coffee, and now it's time for a beer, so cheers. Glad we saved that winch line, the old winch line extension. How's it going there? So we were standing up here, we noticed, you can't really see it from this angle, down in those trees there's a little shimmer of water right in the bottom of this valley, so we just hiked down just this first 20 feet that was so steep that we just got the winch line out. Worked pretty good.
Back on our little handmade paved road this morning. Yes. After an extra day of doing some work on the truck in our camp spot, and now we're heading, we don't know exactly where, but we'll figure it out.
We're heading to a little town of Kia, and this is Sierra. We're up in the Sierra de Kia area, kind of the mountains. This road is just so cool, like the amount of grass coming through and growing on it. You can tell not a lot of people drive this because there's so much grass, but, yeah, I keep wondering when it's going to stop and just end up turning into a paved road or a dirt road. But
it's come all the way up the mountain.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. Stopped at Lake Chapala to have some lunch, and it's not the most beautiful lake in the world. It's a little bit
I think it's also tainted by, if you read the history about it and stuff, and how polluted it is, and how, you know, it's sort of on the decline, it kind of taints it a little bit. Like if we just pulled up here, I'd go, oh, well, there's a ton of stuff growing in it, so it's either shallow or it's just kind of murky. But it looks okay. And then when you read all about how everything's dying, it's sort of like maybe you end up like the Salton Sea, but we're about 30 years before it gets to that, right?
But not a bad place to stop and have lunch. There's a nice cool breeze.
Yeah, I like it.
So we'll find our camp spot. Or maybe an Airbnb.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just no public land around here.
Yeah.
Across over there, where those two mountains are, there might be something, so we can try that.
Okay.
But it's late enough in the day where we might just find a one-night Airbnb here.
We ended up heading into nearby Guadalajara, where we could get a cheap hotel. We hadn't been into such a big city yet on this trip, and it was a little overwhelming. We explored the old town a bit and even found a rad little punk rock dive bar. Neither of us loved big cities, but we did enjoy our time here and the luxury of a hotel room and having so many food options at our fingertips. It was a nice change.
And here's where we've been doing our laundry. It's pretty fancy, right?
Very fancy.
This room is fancy, though. That's for sure. I like it.
We made a mess with it.
Yeah, we kind of did, but that's what we do when we show up places.
Alright, I'm waiting in the car while Tim walked back there because we couldn't find a parking spot in front of a local auto parts store that we've been recommended to get bushings. So he's trying to get bushings. We also just loaded up on groceries, which are just all shoved in the back. It's so hard when you get groceries, and usually the parking lots are really tight, and so getting everything organized in the truck doesn't happen. So anything that needs to be cold goes in the fridge, and then the rest we just throw back here until we get to a camp spot. But we're almost, once Tim gets the bushings, then we'll head towards Tequila and a place to camp tonight. And it's nice and overcast, so we just got to get out of the city. Traffic's always a little interesting, but I think we're pretty close to being out of the city, so it's a good day. After lazily exploring in these